If the fence rests, let's lay it down. Gonna dig deep, wave that verdict round. The defense rests, time to analyze. With the evidence, we'll unveil the crime. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule at the defense rests.
Well, hello, y'all, and welcome back to the Defence Rests, where justice is served in an honest fight. Now, today, we're just catching up on a few of the little bits and pieces left over from the Zachary Hughes trial. So we're going to cover closing arguments, and I've got a couple of little clips here that have come out that I thought I'd share with you.
I genuinely mean that. Not perfect self-defense, mind you, because there was no evidence, not one shred of evidence, that there was going to be imminent harm to anybody.
Sorry.
The imperfect self-defense is satisfied if he simply takes a stand and gives any type of testimony that he personally, honestly believed in the need to use deadly force. But the next aspect of it for the jury is to decide whether or not his belief in the need to use deadly force was reasonable. So it goes from the subjective to the objective aspect. And I could see a jury coming back on an imperfect self-defense. They're all going to agree that this young man is nuts, that he's crazed. He might have honestly believed that in his deluded mind. But objectively, to us as this jury of 12, his belief is unreasonable, and we can give him manslaughter. That would be a huge victory, because I believe it caps at 30 years as opposed to life. He's still a young guy. What is he, 32, 33 years old? So there would be light at the end of the tunnel if he could get that instruction.
Yeah, the judge ultimately decided, he's the gatekeeper of evidence, he decided that would be unreasonable and confusing to the jury to allow that in because it just didn't fit the facts. Marie, the one thing he can't get away from, and he's trying to hear with the testimony we're listening to now, from the brutality of this crime, saying he's trying to protect someone, but yet this was an extremely brutal crime.
He knew exactly what he was doing. He premeditatedly planned the entire thing. He even thought to have a silencer. He tortured the woman. What I'm getting from this testimony is the aggravated nature of what he did. And I don't even understand how we're talking self-defense. From what I remember from when I was a crim law teaching assistant, there has to be an imminent threat against your own life or the life of someone else that's happening right now. How did that woman opening the door and seeing him there holding a gun and then him stabbing her, torturing her, threaten his own life? Where does that come in?
It doesn't.
What are we even talking about?
Doesn't.
We fell on the floor.
35 step wounds.
At this point, I had just tried to take my mind out of it and just try to get through this and finish it as quickly as possible, because I realized that it was only becoming prolonged, and I had to. So I don't remember how many times I struck her. I just remember
he can't
that
count
when it finished, we were on the ground, and I stopped striking her when she stopped struggling. And at this point, I stood up, and I was still freaking out, and I was in kind of a daze.
It's hot here.
And I was just trying to pull myself together and figure out what I needed to do to leave the house.
It's 91 at the moment.
And again, I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything behind that would connect me to it, because
yeah. Let's get to the end bit.
And I will own up to what I've done, and I'll take responsibility for it, because I believed that it was the right thing.
I'm getting there, darling, I suppose.
And then I left. I exited out through the door, and I got back on my bike, and I pedaled my bike back to the truck, and I drove back to the mountain house. And I was still completely freaking out, and it felt entirely surreal. But there's a big difference in how I felt, in that as soon as I left the house, I felt the most enormous wave of relief wash over me, because I knew from that moment on.
It does come back. They just bleep him out.
Sexual abuse that her mother was perpetrating on her. And there is proof to that the state is hiding from you.
No, instruction to be quiet.
Instruction to be quiet. Stop talking.
The jury.
And there's this one.
John Mello was arrested. This was big breaking news.
He's
on
an
Wednesday.
attractive
He's
fellow,
facing
isn't he?
charges of accessory before the fact to a felony and solicitation to commit that felony. At a hearing last night, the judge ordered him to be held without bond.
Oh,
Based
no
on the
bond.
nature of these charges and the situation involved in these cases, or excuse me, this case, I am going to no bond you, and I'm going to send you to the circuit court for a bond hearing. Your next court date will be sometime in the next 30 days. I can't tell you if it'll be 3 days from now or 30 days from now, because that'll have to be scheduled by the solicitor's office. But at that point in time, it'll be up to them to decide as to whether to grant you a bond or to keep you in jail until your court date.
The plot thickens. All right, let's hear the closing arguments.
This is the moment where myself and the defense have an opportunity to speak to you directly. It's called our closing statement, our closing arguments. All the evidence that you're going to hear in this case, you've already heard it. It's either sitting right here or it's through testimony that you've already heard. And so my goal here is to just talk a little bit about this case with you and sort of explain the state's perspective and how we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Zach Hughes did in fact commit the crimes that he's alleged to have committed. And I'm going to go through those crimes a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to go briefly through the evidence and explain my perspective on those things. I will give you a bit of a caveat that this is a little bit of a unique case in that you rarely have the defendant testifying and admitting to the entire crime during the trial. So in that respect, my closing argument may be a little different or maybe a little abnormal than our normal way we do things, but I'm going to do my best. I first want to thank you for your service. It's been a long 2 weeks. Y'all have been extremely attentive. You've paid attention. You've listened to the judge. And to be frankly, I couldn't ask for a better jury, and I appreciate your service.
Really?
On behalf of my co-counsel, Mr. Jake Hoferth,
I saw the verdict.
Investigator Jared Sparkman, and Master Deputy Blake Wolf,
I haven't
we thank
seen
you
those
for your
closing
service.
arguments.
Now, I told you in my opening statements that once you see and hear all the testimony in this trial, and I did not know that the defendant was going to testify, you're going to find that Zach Hughes, I don't know if you remember what I said, is a cold-blooded killer. And I submit that the state, and along with the testimony of Zach Hughes, we did in fact prove all of that beyond a reasonable doubt. Zach Hughes is a cold-blooded killer.
Point them out to
Zach
when they
Hughes.
come.
We're at the top of the hour. We have to get to a break. You're not going to miss a moment. We'll hit the pause button and have more of these closing arguments in South Carolina versus Zachary Hughes next. Stay with us. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Thank you for following along with us this afternoon. We're tracking several major trials here at Court TV. Right now in the Rose Petal murder trial for Zachary Hughes, he's accused of brutally stabbing his friend's ex-girlfriend. He admits he did do that, but he said the real reason was something that he is proud of. The jury can't hear a lot of it. We're going in for those closing arguments in just a moment. We're also in California. The state's case continues in the celebrity stylist murder trial where defendant Monica Cementelli.
Keep in mind, he solved John Mello's problems. So the judge is going to instruct you on the law, and just as we're going to abide by his rulings, you must abide by his instructions. Remember, I told you he's the referee, calls balls and strikes, and he also tells us what the rules are, what the law is. Y'all took an oath way long ago than you can probably remember, back in last week on Monday, a week ago, and you said you would take an oath, you would adhere to his instructions.
Did you watch my why Hank Brennan is such a douche canoe?
You would do your duty as jurors, and I have no doubt in my mind that you will absolutely do that. Now, before Zach Hughes admitted to the murder of Christina Parcell, the state called approximately 32 witnesses. We submitted close to 200 exhibits. If you put all this on a hard drive, it's a little over 4 terabytes of information. And all of that taken together, it's a lot of evidence to digest. Now, with the admission of Zach Hughes to a lot of the state's case, the questions you were presented with at the beginning of the case really are answered. Regardless of what he may believe in his head, his actions are what matter in this courtroom. Actions speak louder than words. And boy, do we have a lot of cold, calculated, horrific actions in this case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you must find the facts based on the evidence in this trial and solely based on the evidence presented at this trial inside this courtroom. And it's undisputed that Zach Hughes planned, he lay and waited, he broke into Christina Parcell's home with a .22 and a knife.
What?
Some roses.
Broke in?
She had just returned home from an interview
He didn't break in.
From her last interview with Vet Tech, Zach Hughes, a person she had never met. She had never met him. Beat her with a gun, brutally stabbed her 35 times, severing her jugular vein and her carotid artery. Now, as we go through the evidence and we look at some of the different things, I'm going to ask you to keep in mind the charges that you're actually looking at. So the first charge I'm explaining is the harassment charge. And there's two harassment. There's harassment and there's conspiracy to commit harassment. The only difference is that conspiracy requires two or more people joining and to commit the harassment. So harassment is just a pattern of intentional, substantial, and unreasonable intrusion into the private life of a targeted person that serves no legitimate purpose and cause that person and would cause a reasonable person in his position to suffer mental or emotional distress. That's related to all those photos and those documents that you saw mailed out. I think there's 7 envelopes full of photos and other documents. You heard testimony about what was in those. Some of them are in evidence. Some were just described.
No, it was 35. I went back to the medical examiner. It's definitely 35. I promise.
Because those were pictures of Christina Parcell without any clothes on. So we didn't introduce those so as not to embarrass her or her family. Burglary first. A person is guilty of burglary first if he enters a dwelling without consent and with the intent to commit a crime. And I remind you, the judge is going to tell you the law is.
I only know that because I went back and watched the medical examiner last night.
I'm going to give you an outline so you can keep that in mind as we're going through this evidence. And they enter without consent and are armed with a deadly weapon or cause physical injury. Well, those things all already appeared in this case.
Why would you go with an unloaded gun in the first place? Like, really? What a dipshit. Oh, perhaps we could nominate him. We didn't do any dipshits in this. Ah, damn it. We missed our dipshit award. We'll have an inaugural one, I think.
Zach Hughes went in under a ruse of roses, according to his own testimony, but he went in directly with the intent to commit harm, and he had weapons on him. And then you've got murder. You also have possession of the weapon during the commission of a violent crime. That is, if you used a weapon and you murder somebody, that is the possession of the weapon during that commission of a violent crime. But you have murder, which is the killing of any person with malice aforethought. Malice aforethought. You're going to hear those words a lot in the judge's instructions. But malice is ill will towards another person, the intentional doing of a wrong act with the intent to inflict injury. And I think I said early on, ladies and gentlemen, it was a depraved heart, an angry heart, with the intent to harm somebody. And there's also express malice, meaning it's expressed, it's right there in front of you. And it's shown when there are words of hatred or when someone prepares to do the act. They prepare to go in there. It's called premeditation, is what you'll hear the judge charge. Premeditation is preparing to go and harm somebody, like lying in wait, like buying weapons beforehand, by concealing your identity, going in there. Those kinds of things are premeditation, things that you do in preparation of the violent act. And if you find those things, and you find the state proved those beyond a reasonable doubt, then you can find the defendant guilty. So before we get in, let's start with a little background now. You know the players, you know everybody involved in here. You know the victim. You've heard a lot about the victim, Christina Parcell. You've heard a lot about John Mello. You've heard a lot about Zach Hughes. And you've heard a lot about Christina Parcell and John Mello's daughter. So the background, and we're talking the time frame from 2020, October 2020-ish, to October 13th, 2021. So we're roughly a time span of 1 year. And what happens throughout that year that leads up to the murder of Christina Parcell? Zach Hughes never talked to Christina Parcell. He didn't know Christina Parcell. He never met Christina Parcell. And everything he knew about Christina Parcell, even according to his own testimony, was told to him by John Mello or shown to him in certain evidence. John Mello was in a nasty custody battle with Christina Parcell. We all know that. He was on his 4th round of custody disputes with Christina Parcell. Keep in mind, and according to the Guardian ad litem, the prior 3 were just as nasty, but they'd always been settled where John Mello would have significant custody of their daughter. But in April of 2021, that changed. The tide changed for violation of that order, according to the Italian courts. And he took her to Italy. And Christina Parcell didn't even know about that until she saw a social media post where she realizes my daughter's out of the country, I can't see or talk to her, and she's with her father. Thus, the continuation of this nasty child custody dispute.
30-minute delay is over. We can watch the highly anticipated cross-examination of defendant Zachary Hughes in South Carolina. He, of course, the concert pianist facing multiple charges, including murder and the death of Christina Parcell. Prosecutors say he brutally stabbed her more than 30 times, dragged her body through the house, and then placed rose petals at the scene. So today was the big day. This was it, the cross-examination. What are they gonna do to him? Well, you'll see. They asked him one question on cross. Let's go into the courtroom.
State's exhibit 66 up there on the overhead. Mr. Hughes, when you dragged Christina Parcell across the floor of the front room where you killed her, did you drag her by her arm or by her ankle?
I don't recall. Funny that.
I don't remember for certain, but I think by the ankle.
That's all the questions I need to ask this, Your Honor. Any limited redirect? No redirect, Your Honor.
That's it. Don't rest. No, the defense rest.
And I'm going to be taking up a few matters, hopefully very quickly.
All right, that was it. Imagine jurors sitting there getting ready for the cross with their pen and their paper, and
I was looking forward to that.
Ankles. He thinks he dragged her by the ankles. Jacqueline Goodman, your reaction to that?
It was actually quite dramatic and pretty masterful, to be honest with you. So here's the thing. It's a risk. Trial is all about risk. And what the prosecution did was risky, but it was an interesting, bold move. And what they did was they asked a single question that really zoned in on the heinousness of this crime. It was really, they're trying to say, look, this is not about necessity. This is not about, I had to do this. I didn't want to do it. I didn't enjoy doing it. It's not what I would do. I'm a concert pianist. I just had to save the life of this poor child. Let's talk more about the pornography and all of the sexual abuse of this child, the background of the mother, et cetera, and let's muddy these issues up. Prosecution zoned in on one thing, and it was this heinous and well planned out, premeditated, kind of bizarre crime. And what he's saying is, you dragged her. How did you drag her? Did you drag her this way or that way? And they're going to just cause the jury to think of one thing and one thing only. So it was really interesting, I think, that the defense left it at that. They wanted to say verbally, here's my exclamation point. Here's my bold, italicized, punctuated, here's what he did. It was horrible. And the defense, decided we're not going to go into it. The interesting thing, however, is that in the rules of evidence, the defense can only recross on the area that was opened up by the prosecution. So if the prosecution comes back and they ask one question, in technical terms, the defense can only ask a question that is designed to shed more light on that particular issue. So the prosecution goes in and they decide, I'm going to narrow the scope of recross. And I'm going to say in this redirect what I want him to say. And it didn't matter what the answer was going to be. It didn't matter whether he didn't remember. It didn't matter whether he was certain about it. Didn't matter what his answer was. I dragged her. And it put a picture in the minds of these jurors of him dragging her by the ankle. Then, we know about all of the rose petals and various things they put around the body, according to the evidence so far. So it could be partly that the prosecution believes, look, he's doing a pretty good job of deflecting the issues that we want to put in front of this jury, and we want to stop that from happening. But there's also a very astute way to do it. And that is, I'm going to end it on this note. That's the last thing they're going to think about. That's the one thing that's going to stick in their minds, is that they came in, they heard the question and answer. Had it been buried in a long cross-examination, it would have escaped their memories, most likely. So, and it certainly wouldn't have had the impact that it has. And so what they did was a pretty strategic, risky thing, but it may just pay off for the prosecution.
Yeah, because they can double down now on in their closing and bring it back up and keep that in mind. Because you're right. Basically what they're saying is, you're a monster, aren't you? And jury, do you want this guy walking the streets? He mutilated this woman and then dragged her body across the room. Don't get caught up in his other tales, because he is a good storyteller. He is a good witness, and I'm sure everybody in the courtroom felt his ability to get the attention of the jury and get it away from the actual heinousness of the crime. So it was a potentially brilliant move there by the state. For us, it wasn't as exciting as a long cross that got into all of the details and to really match wits with this defendant, because that would have been something.
John asked me that if I believed his daughter was in grave danger, would I be willing to kill Christina Parcell for $5,000? I believe that what I've done is the right thing, and I believe that I did it for the right reason. It would be safe. It would be safe from the sexual abuse that her mother was perpetrating on her. And there's proof to that the state is hiding from you. Instruct you to be quiet.
He's
This
a
testimony
naughty
unbelievable
boy.
or what? Today, defendant Zachary Hughes is getting ready to be cross-examined this morning. This after he implicated the victim's ex, leading to his arrest. We got a first look at John Mello's bond hearing. Plus, we have a major development in the case of 3 Michigan children abandoned for years. What we're learning about their mother and how she allegedly hid them. Also this hour, shaking, glaring,
is what
and
you're talking
laughing.
about,
We're
Elizabeth,
reading
don't I?
between the lines, examining the body language at Karen Reed's last court hearing. Plus, everything we know about Monica Simontilli's co-defendant, Robert Baker. This guy's a racquetball coach, a criminal, and a former porn star. We're looking ahead to his testimony that could happen today. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Brandt. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? That's the question. That's what we do every weekday morning, getting you all ready for the Big Court TV Live day ahead. So let's get it going as we always do. Grab your coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. You know, sometimes there are no words. Sometimes what we see in criminal court is so stunning and so sickening, we struggle to find the appropriate words to even talk about it. And I'm feeling this way about the child abuse case in Michigan, where a mother is accused of leaving her children alone in a house of revolting biohazardous conditions for years. That's right, alone in filth and squalor for years. Minor children. Children who deserved to be loved. Children who deserved to be protected. They had to sleep on pizza boxes. They had trouble walking because their toenails were so long. And when they were rescued, they didn't understand how to brush their teeth or how to flush the toilet. How did this happen, you wonder? The answer boils my blood. Fear. Investigators say that this mother put her kids that she abandoned in so much fear that they were afraid of what she would do to them if they left that filthy house. When I heard this, I found my words. This rotten,
isn't it?
sorry excuse for a mother who allegedly abused her children so severely needs to have some fear put into her. She needs to be in fear of never seeing the light of day. Anybody who abandons their kids and forces them to live in filth deserves the harshest penalty the law allows. You know, it's cases like this one, my friends, that make me wish we had eye for an eye punishment.
Yep.
I pray that those kids can heal from their trauma. I pray that they'll now be placed in a loving home. And I pray that somebody throws away the key after the person or persons responsible, in this case, are locked up for life. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it right now. It's time for your daily docket.
All right.
Not only was the defendant having an affair with Baker.
Well, that's me done. Right on, doggy. So we do have a dipshit award right there. That's going up as soon as this stream ends. So that ends. I've put a link in the chat for the verdict. I've sort of done it a bit backwards this time, but it's all there in the playlist. It's all complete now. And I might have a look into that case. See what's available. Now, Monday. There are a couple of, I haven't seen if this, actually, I think he took a plea deal. Yeah. I think the one I was following, for the one in the freezer, I think he took a plea deal. Let me have a look. But there is the one coming up that is the judge, the drunken judge that I think stabbed his wife. Oh. Let me go back a bit. Hang on. I'm sick of hearing his voice, I tell you. I go through my history and it's like, all I can hear is Zach Hughes. I think it's Court TV, has it? Where did I see it? Yeah. Here we go. Let me share this page. So I might start this one on Monday.
And shot his wife, Cheryl, during an argument. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson has the background.
Judge Jeffrey Ferguson.
Orange County Criminal Court Judge Jeffrey Ferguson has handled many murder trials, but his next one is a first. This time, the 74-year-old judge is the defendant, standing accused of the August 3rd, 2023 murder of his longtime wife, Cheryl. Early in the evening, the couple dined with their 23-year-old son.
No. See, the problem is all these ones come up and it's like 2 years down the track before they're at trial. So it's at the end of the investigation I got to find them. But if you can find something interesting to start Monday, please feel free to message me on Discord, or you can email me, whatever you like. But yeah, there's lots of new stuff coming up, like as in new cases and stuff, but they're at the beginning of the. So where was that one, Elizabeth? The brother. Oh, it's a trial that started this week too. Really? I'm on Court TV now. Why didn't I see it? Oh, is it the twin?
Welcome back for TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott.
And I'm Michael Ayala. We'll get you back in court in just a moment. But first, we do want to catch you up on Court TV's newest case, the sleepwalking teen murder trial going on in Texas. Benjamin Elliott was 17 years old when police say he stabbed his twin sister to death while he was sleepwalking.
But the defense says no, it wasn't murder, and that Elliott was suffering from a sleep disorder. Crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson is here now with a debrief.
Michael, Ashley, a big day in court. After 3 days of emotional testimony, the defense delivered powerful opening statements and started to call their own witnesses.
He is not a psychopath.
I've skipped most of it. God damn it. I'll have to see if I can find some more. I'll do some sleuthing.
He's not a sociopath. He is not crazy. So, either he had some hidden motive and he was mad at his sister and he killed her in the middle of the night, which is not, it's not true. You're not going to find that anywhere. He loved his sister. The evidence is going to show Megan was somewhere on the spectrum. Ben a little bit too, but Ben was the funny one. He was witty.
Now 21 years old, Benjamin Elliott on trial for the murder of his twin sister, Megan. During day 3 of testimony, the state called several witnesses, including the defendant's father, who broke down in tears. The state has also called investigators over the past 3 days who testified that Elliott was on his phone right before the stabbing. They claimed that he was obsessed with hunting gear and used his father's knife to kill his sister. The state also played this shocking police interrogation video. Take a listen.
All right, so you go to sleep around that time. What's the next thing you remember?
The next thing I remember is like the feeling of stabbing something and then realizing what's going on and panicking.
Where were you at that point?
I was in your room and I remember like stabbing something and I turned on the light and I saw what was happening. I was panicking and I tried to stop bleeding.
How many times did you stab?
Just once.
The defendant's family, in the gallery each and every day showing support. Today, the defense started calling witnesses, including friends of Elliott who testified about prior sleepwalking incidents, and a forensic psychologist who said this.
What would you have been looking for in Benjamin?
to determine whether or not he presented as a psychopath?
I mean, there are a number of traits that we would look for. The most common test used to assess for psychopathy is the psychopathy checklist revised. It has 20 items on it that, again, relating to people who live in superficial, that they lie, they're conning, they manipulate others, that they're frequently violating the rights of others, criminal versatility. There's none of them.
And did you see any of that in Benjamin Elliott?
I did not.
And moments ago, the defense has recalled the defendant's father to the stand. They also called earlier his aunt and another sister who testified about other prior sleepwalking incidents. Elliott faces life behind bars if convicted. Michael, Ashley?
All right. Thank you so much to Matt Johnson for that.
Well, I'll definitely be looking into that one. All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. And you have yourself a hot weekend. Enjoy. And I shall see you all fresh as a daisy on Monday. No, Andy Monday. Hasta la vista, bitches.
Hey there, thanks for stopping in. We hope you will join us again. We all look forward to next time. We get to talk about true crime. Clues. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests. Where sentences rule and the defense rests. Our true crime family is great. All types of topics we debate. Smash that like and ring that bell. Hit subscribe, you might as well.